Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony DeQuano.
So, Tony, let's take a trip to the Old West. So, I always figured that our first Western, like our first actual, like, true Western movie,
right,
would be, something like one of the Man with No Name trilogy movies, yes. Or, Tombstone, or, something that your traditional Western.
Yes.
But this is Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. We don't do traditional.
Well, we had Jesse James. He's in Bill and Ted.
Well, no, Billy the Kid is in.
Was Billy? Oh, it is Billy the Kid. Yes,
Billy the Kid is in Bill and Ted. So, but that whole movie's not Western.
No, it's also a Greek tragedy because there's Socrates.
Yep.
And you get the French historical epic with Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this is
and you get the Oedipus complex with Freud.
But yes, this is our cinematic adventure, and you don't really know what direction it might go.
Yeah,
this one ended up in the Old West in 2011.
Yes, it did. And that Western adventure that we are going on today is the movie that has the most accurate title of just about any movie out there. This title tells you exactly what this movie is about.
And it gives, I don't know how you can be disappointed necessarily. Like, I can see it not being your favorite movie, but no, it tells you what's going to be in this movie. Mm-hmm. And then you hear that title, like, oh, yeah, I want to see that because it has that and that.
Yeah.
And then it gives you that and that.
Yeah.
Plus more.
And that title and those things, that is Cowboys and Aliens. You get Cowboys and you get Aliens. And you know what? They throw some Indians in there, too.
And Olivia Wilde.
Yes.
Who plays the Phoenix?
Yes.
Not to get to too many spoilers yet.
I'm down for any movie with Olivia Wilde in it. Just saying.
It also has James Bond.
Yes, it does. Daniel Craig.
And Indiana Jones. So James Bond and
the cast in this movie is phenomenal.
Yes.
I mean, they have a strong cast in this movie.
Yeah, and it's not just James Bond, Harrison Ford, and Olivia Wilde.
No, you also have Sam Rockwell. You have Paul Dano. You've got Clancy Brown. You've got Walton Goggins.
Yeah, I love Walton
Goggins. I do too. You got Abigail Spencer has a small role in it. You got Adam Beach, who's very underrated, in my opinion.
And he's cast very well in this.
Yes, he is.
Keith Carradine.
Yes, Keith Carradine, David Carradine's brother.
Yeah.
Even Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son, has a role in this movie. Brendan Wayne, the grandson of John Wayne, who also is one of the stuntmen for The Mandalorian.
Interesting.
So he's one of the guys in the suit, in the Mandalorian suit.
Gotcha.
In the show.
Yeah, just up and down. It's just such a great cast. I mean, it's Jon Favreau who's directing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's really, it's a shame that it wasn't as well regarded as it should have been.
I agree. And that's why we're doing it. Is that, we are not that far away from the summer. And this was a summer movie. And it occupies an interesting time, right? Because, again, it's Jon Favreau. And this is a few years after Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because this is 2011. Iron Man's 2008. So we're not quite at the Avengers yet. But, the building towards an MCU, which kind of, helps definitely redefine cinema for the next decade plus, right? And it just was kind of a box office failure. And I even recall at the time, right, because it had its premiere at Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
At the peak of Comic-Con, it had its thing in it. And again, you had Daniel Craig, right? He's 2 movies into his Bond, right? This is a year before Skyfall comes out. You have Indiana Jones and Han Solo in it, right? And what's interesting about it is for the last decade or so, like Harrison Ford was in a bunch of just duds for the most part, right? And this movie was kind of a dud too at the box office, but in some ways it was, looking back at it and rewatching it, it's kind of one of the movies that kind of helps propel him back to kind of his elite status.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, again, it's a movie about cowboys and aliens, and it didn't hide the fact that it was about cowboys and aliens.
No,
right?
It did not. It didn't hide it at all.
So some movies have a hard time marketing themselves, and then people can't quite tell what it is, and it's kind of a failure at the box office. John Carter is one of those movies that comes to mind for that.
Yep.
It's very sci-fi-ish. It's also very much kind of like a space western, like this is.
Yep.
But it's a much harder sell in a lot of ways.
Well, partially because they changed the title of it.
They did.
The source material was John Carter of Mars.
Yes, right. And they just call it John Carter.
Yeah.
The most generic name they could find.
Yeah, but this one, it's Cowboys and Aliens. Right there, front and center. This is going to have cowboys and it's going to have aliens, and it doesn't disappoint with either. Like, it's not one of those movies that, it tries to hide the aliens until the very end when it finally shows them. No, this one, within like 20 minutes of the movie, boom, aliens right there.
Aliens. And within 2 minutes, cowboys trying to do cowboy shit.
Yes.
You got James Bond doing James Bond shit.
Yep. With a cowboy hat. James Bond and a Stetson.
This movie even has a dude taking a shit in a creek bed.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And then taking an explosive fart. But we'll get to that.
And it's got Olivia Wilde.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I just, I remember watching it in theaters, and my roommate and I at the time were talking about it, and I guess we saw it opening weekend, and then we were just saying the same thing that we've been saying here right now. It's like we don't get why people are complaining about this movie. It's called Cowboys and Aliens.
Yes, I mean,
it's just about cowboys and aliens.
Exactly. I mean, is it a great movie? Depends on your definition of great. Is it a fun movie? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It is so much fun to watch.
Yeah. There's better summer blockbusters of this vein. There's worse movies also.
Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why
it's fun.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why we picked this movie to do now is because we have summer blockbusters coming up. We wanted to do a few movies that are a little bit less remembered. I think this definitely falls within that category. I do too.
There are some movies that are just epically bomb that just stay within the public kind of conscious, like the 98 Godzilla.
Yeah. But then there are other movies that were actually good, enjoyable movies. They just aren't as well remembered as others.
Yes.
And so that's what we're trying to do in these weeks leading up to our summer blockbusters, is we're trying to bring out some of those movies, some of the ones that we really enjoyed watching, but people don't really talk about them a whole lot nowadays.
No. This is definitely one of them. Especially, again, given the cast.
Yeah. I know. This is a solid cast.
Like, this is one of those movies. Like, again, I don't really watch much cable television anymore, but back in the day, if it was a Saturday afternoon and it was rainy or I wasn't doing anything, I was flipping through the channels and this was on TV. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, I mean, we also have people popping like zits in this movie.
We got cows being eviscerated, and
I mean, they do not shy away from the whole aliens aspect of Cowboys and Aliens.
No, they don't shy away from either part of it. No, that's one of the facets I like about it, is that it's, there's a bunch of cowboys in it, and most of them, they are kind of not all of them. So some are kind of regular people that end up kind of having to become cowboys because of the situation. Yes, like the Sam Rockwell character. We'll get to him, but the other main characters in it, they live in a lot of moral gray area. But you know what? Aliens have come to start some shit, and they're going to give them some shit.
They're going to give them shit. Aliens are starting something. They're going to end it. Yeah. And it's not one of those movies like Snakes on a Plane where it's just ridiculous and they knew it was ridiculous the whole time, so they just rolled with it. No, this is a somewhat serious movie.
It is. It's a fairly serious movie. I wouldn't call it like a hard PG-13. But it's definitely more of a serious PG-13 tone than some other movies that are out there that are kind of the summer variety. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have the huge comic relief in it. Yeah. It doesn't shy away. It's the West. It's tough. And these aliens are looking to destroy people.
Although the word alien is never mentioned in the movie.
It is not.
They call them demons because it's the Old West. They don't know about aliens.
Yes.
So to them, they're demons.
Yeah, well, the things that can fly, I mean, they're not really used to seeing things that aren't birds fly. Maybe if you have seen a hot air balloon, right? But a hot air balloon obviously is a certain object.
Yeah.
That does not come at you with speed.
And I mean, Daniel Craig even makes a comment on flying in it.
He does.
At one point.
But yeah, I like that facet. They're not aliens, they're demons.
Yeah.
And it's
even though to the viewer they're clearly aliens, but to the people who are living the story, they don't know about aliens, so all they can compare them to is demons.
It's a somewhat interesting design that they have too.
Yeah.
They'll get into the whole mythos, which I kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
They just present the action as is.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really see any of this from the aliens' perspective.
No, we don't. By the way, one of the writers on this is Damon Lindelof, who at the time was still riding a high from Lost.
Yep.
There's quite a few writers, which, it makes sense. And it is based off a graphic novel, which I don't think we referenced yet, from Scott Rosenberg. So that was, I think that graphic novel was 2006. I've not read the graphic novel. I would assume that it features cowboys and aliens, though. By the way, one of the producers on this is Ron Howard, Opie. I did not realize that. At one point, Robert Downey Jr. was attached.
No, was he?
Yes. And he's actually one of the people responsible for getting Jon Favreau on it. Because he was making Iron Man 2, and he told Favreau about it. And then later that year, after finishing Iron Man 2, he joined as director.
Oh, well, I mean, he would be a good one to recommend Favreau.
So interesting about this also, we'll talk about a lot of the cast, and we talked about Favreau, right? And Favreau normally will appear in a lot of his movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this one, he only appears on a wanted poster.
Okay.
He thought if he appeared in the movie in any role that it might affect the tone of the movie.
I could see that.
Which I could see that because he usually, whether he's kind of a serious character or not, he has kind of a comedic aura about him.
Yeah.
And like we said, it's definitely not, there's no comedic relief in this movie. There's actually there's a lot of peril in this movie.
There is
true peril.
There is a lot of peril.
There are kids in danger in this movie.
It is a very perilous movie.
So that's really anyway. How about we jump into it?
Let's jump into it. So, as always, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then pause the podcast, watch the movie, and come back and listen. If you have seen it or you just don't mind being spoiled, then keep on listening. But you have been warned, we will be spoiling this movie. So, there.
And you may not have seen this movie. Like we said,
you may not have seen it.
No one talks about it anymore. I shouldn't say no one talks about it anymore, but considering it's got directed by Jon Favreau, starring Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford, and it's been released in the last 15 years.
Yeah, it's really surprising it's not talked about as much as the rest of their movies.
So anyway, the movie opens and you can tell it's the desert and you're guessing it's the Old West. It doesn't tell you the year, right? We'll get hints to that later, what year it is. It doesn't even tell you where in the Old West it is.
Nope, just desert.
Right? And, you look at it, it gives you the sense that's, kind of like the Four Corners area, right? You kind of have all those kind of rock formations, kind of mountainous and craggy, as opposed to like Death Valley type of desert or Mexican desert, Nevada desert. And James Bond wakes up. And he's still got blue eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He wakes up.
Blue-eyed James Bond.
And he's like, whoa, I just had a dream that I was a British spy. But
he looks confused.
Right now, I have an American accent. So how could I be a British spy?
Unless I was played by Kevin Costner.
Yes. I knew it. Robin Hood was a spy. That explains everything.
He wakes up and he's looking around and he's trying to figure things out, right? You can tell it's not just that, oh shit, how did I get here?
And he's got this metal thing on his wrist.
It's on his
left wrist.
Left wrist, yes.
Left wrist.
And you can tell he's also not just confused about where he is, he's kind of confused about who he is.
Yeah.
So, he's got no recollection of anything. And I get it. I mean, if I woke up in the desert like that, I'd be confused.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's not long after that, that these three guys come up on horses and they kind of get him into business, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out who he is. And one of them mentions that, he's got some iron on his wrist.
Yeah, so he must be an escaped criminal.
Oh, and he notices that he has a wound in his, his stomach.
Yeah, it looks like he may have been shot or something.
So they notice he's got the iron on his wrist and he's got the wounds. So they're thinking, he might have a bounty on his head. Let's go get a bounty, right? But he's got other ideas. So he Jason Bournes their asses. He's an American spy.
Another movie we need to do sometime. But But yeah, he completely Jason Bournes their asses. He takes all three of them out. Not only does he take them out, but he also takes one of their hats and a vest and their horse and the dog.
Right.
They have a dog also.
Important. No, I'm glad he brought up the dog because there's a dog. Looks like it's kind of like maybe like a border collie or something like that. It's black and white. And so, yeah, he kills them. And then, he gets their clothes. Well, he gets some of their clothes, right? He gets one of the boots, right? Puts it up against his foot. Make sure that he finds the one that's closest.
Because he doesn't want to pull a John McClane and barefoot the whole movie.
That's exactly the thought I had. It's like, I hope I didn't kill someone with feet smaller than my sister. Right? So
and he also takes a gun.
Yes. And then he rides off. And, then we get the credits. It says it's Cowboys and Aliens, right?
Mm-hmm. And so far we've seen Cowboys, but we have not seen Aliens yet. But
we have not.
But fret not, the aliens are coming.
They are coming. But first, we have to wander into the town of Absolution. Which is a small town like in this valley. Mm-hmm. Again, it's the Old West.
I wonder if it is anywhere near perfection.
It'd be awesome if there's graboids in this movie. It'd be an awesome mashup.
Yes.
They defeat the aliens and then the graboids come. Somehow anyway. So it's a sleepy little town, right? And he breaks into one of these houses, right? And he's thirsty and he's trying to treat his wound, right?
Yeah.
So get some water, and this water is clear.
Yes, this is not what you would typically see in an Old West movie. This is not dirty water.
Does Absolution have the best filtration system in the world?
Maybe they do. Maybe they invented filtration.
Well, Sam Rockwell does play a character named Doc.
Yes, he does.
Even though he's a town bartender.
Mm-hmm. But hey, Doc spent a little bit of time in a bar.
Right?
Run for fun.
Anyway, so he's looking around, right? And then all of a sudden he gets this gun to his back of his head, right?
Mm-hmm. And you hear Clancy Brown's voice.
You hear Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown's distinctive voice. That man has got a voice.
He's got a voice. He's got one of those underrated voices in a lot of ways. He
does.
Like, he's done so much voice work, but for a lot of people, they know him so much for his acting work.
Yeah.
Right? Or people might know him for his voice work, and then all of a sudden they're watching Cowboys and Aliens.
Mm-hmm. And I know that voice.
Hear Mr. Krabby Pants.
That's what he looks like? Yeah.
We will also be doing Highlander.
Are you saying the Kurgan was in SpongeBob?
There could be only one sponge. Anyway, we will do Highlander.
Yes, we will.
We will also probably do Shawshank.
Yes, he's in that too.
He's he plays it. What's interesting about this movie is a lot of his movies he plays an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
He does not play one in this. He plays a preacher.
Yes, he plays a preacher named Meacham in this.
Yeah. And he wants to basically know, this is obviously his house, and there's this guy with a wound that's stealing his water, drinking his water, right? Yeah, and he's, what does he say? I had it here. Yeah, he wants to know is he a criminal?
Yes.
Or is he a victim?
Yes, he says, I see a man here with a gunshot wound. And that means you're one of two things. Are you a criminal or a victim? And Daniel Craig says, I don't know.
Yep.
And so he says, well, what's your name? And Daniel Craig says, I don't know that either.
And so he has mercy on him, and he fixes his wound, right? And they talk, and he's giving him spiritual advice because he's a preacher, and he's talking about how he doesn't have, even if he is a criminal, like his past does not have to define him, type of thing, right? Kind of very pastoral type advice, not fire and brimstone, right?
No, it's more along the lines of, what you did in the past doesn't define you. It's what you choose to do now that, is what you live your life by. People can change, basically.
Yeah. So, while he's dressing this, there's some commotion outside. And it's caused by Paul Dano.
Yes.
And Paul Dano basically plays Paul Dano.
Yeah, he plays Percy Dollarhide. He's the spoiled rich kid.
Yes.
Whose daddy owns everything.
And he likes to whine, and he thinks he can push people around because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what he basically wants here is basically free booze.
Yeah.
And, he fashions himself a bit as a gunslinger, which he obviously isn't.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of lucky that his dad's the kind of the power in an area that's kind of sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could imagine if he's in another area, he would probably get killed in a gunfight.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. His dad owns a cattle ranching business.
Yes.
And so they provide the town with all their meat and all that stuff. And, and he's going on about this. He's like, well, without my family, you guys wouldn't have any food on your table.
Yeah. That's essentially what it is. And Sam Rockwell, as his name is Doc, he owns the town saloon.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Kind of comes out and he's trying to, it's like, people still need to pay. He's just like, I'm trying to stay afloat as well, and
trying to run a business here. Can't just keep on giving away free drinks.
And he's, but then he seems like he's going to give in, but his wife doesn't want him to give in. Right.
His wife Maria, played by Ana de la Reguera.
I'm say, I'm glad you had her already up. Yeah.
She's another underrated actress.
She is, yes. If a lot of people might be familiar with her in Eastbound and Down, but I don't know. I think of Nacho Libre.
Yeah. And I often get her confused with Paz Vega.
Yes. I also forgot she was in Cop Out. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
One.
Yeah, she is.
Army of the Dead, Lost Vegas. It's a new one she has coming out soon. All right, then. All right, but then, so you have Daniel Craig's character, right? We don't know his name yet.
We don't know his name
right?
yet.
Because he doesn't know his name yet. No one in town knows who he is.
Yeah.
Right? He's out there. He comes out after he gets stitched up by Meacham, right? And he's just kind of standing coolly, just kind of on,
leaning up against one of the beams.
Yep, one of the beams there. He's got the cowboy hat on.
Mm-hmm.
We see Olivia Wilde there. She's kind of looking around too. She also looks mysterious.
Yes, she does.
And so he goes around. He decides that, we should take up a collection for you, right?
Yeah, because Meacham comes walking in and says, oh, look, the preacher's here. Maybe that means we should take up a collection. So he takes his hat off and he walks around to people and they're putting money in his hat.
But James Bond's like, hell no.
Yeah.
And so this just pisses off, Paul Dano.
Pisses off Percy. And, so he pulls out his gun. Percy does.
Now he's trying to act a tough guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and Daniel Craig's having nothing of it, and he's not even going to attempt to try to draw his because he knows that Percy's probably not actually going to shoot him, and if he does, he's going to miss.
Yeah, even though he's a foot and a half in front of
him. And then he accidentally does shoot. Instead of hitting Daniel Craig, he hits the town deputy.
Yeah.
Right. And you can tell he didn't mean to hit the town deputy. He's like, oh no, what's gonna happen to me now?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And that's when the sheriff comes up. Right? And the sheriff is played by Keith Carradine.
Mm-hmm. Sheriff John Taggart. And Keith Carradine, I've always loved Keith Carradine.
Yeah, he is terrific.
He is a terrific cowboy. And I mean, most of what I've seen him in is cowboy stuff. But he's also been in some other non-cowboy stuff. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He was Penny's dad in Big Bang Theory.
And also Madam's Secretary.
Mm-hmm.
But, the last couple of weeks we talked about, we had Ian McShane, right?
Yeah.
He was in Deadwood, and I think of when he plays Wild Bill Hickok in Deadwood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Deadwood is, if you haven't seen Deadwood as a series, absolutely watch Deadwood. It's one of my favorite HBO shows. So, he also played in the movie Wild Bill.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know we've kind of talked recently about other kind of early to mid 90s Western movies like Tombstone, and Wild Bill was another one that was out there.
Yeah.
Some other ones that I've forgotten about from him. Well, I mean, that makes sense. He was on Bonanza.
Yeah, I mean, makes perfect sense.
He even played 2 episodes in of Kung Fu.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. His brother was the lead in Kung Fu.
His character name was Middle Kane. It's
Middle Kane. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, he's terrific.
So does that mean, so I'm wondering, does that mean that he played the younger version of Kane?
Maybe.
So you have the child Kane, and then you have middle Kane, and then you have adult Kane.
Middle Kane. Kung Fu. Let's find this one out. Yes. The younger one. Exactly.
So teenage Kane.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense that they would get his younger brother to play a younger version of him.
Yeah. And they do look alike.
Yes, they do.
They're not it's not quite, identical, but they look alike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're brothers.
Yeah.
So anyway, and he plays the character of the sheriff here really well.
Yes, he does.
He's a very much kind of your typical no nonsense kind of character in the Old West that's trying to keep order within his town.
Yeah.
Right. He's not going to be bought off by any of the robbers or vagrants that are around. He's very aware of the dangers that might surround the town. Right. So he shows up.
But what we didn't mention here is after the whole fiasco with shooting the deputy, before the sheriff shows up, then Daniel Craig just punches him.
That's right.
Daniel Craig punches Percy. Disarms him.
And because he doesn't know who Percy is, and he doesn't care who Percy is anyway. Either way,
all he knows is this kid is waving a gun around, just shot
harassing
a deputy.
People.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's gonna punch him in the face.
And you know what? And then he gets the town approval because of this too.
Yeah.
So that's when the sheriff comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to arrest Percy. Right?
He
shot the deputy.
Yeah, I mean, Percy's threatening him because, well, my daddy hears about this. But he's like, Percy, shot the deputy. I have no choice. You shot a deputy. Sheriff. You shot a deputy, so I have to arrest you.
One of Percy's guys that's with him, right, goes up to the sheriff and he's like, Mr. Dollahide's not going to like this. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And, when sheriff's like, I don't care. Right? Yeah. I think within this, we also meet his Taggart's grandson, Emmett.
Yes.
Played by Noah Ringer.
Who has not been in a whole lot.
No.
He was in Avatar: The Last Airbender and this.
Yes.
That's it. He was also a voice in the Avatar video game. But,
very, very common for, I guess, a lot of kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, sheriff arrests Percy, and then, Bond, or Daniel Craig, goes into the saloon, and Maria is thankful for how he stood up.
Yeah,
right,
and defended her husband.
Percy, defended the husband. So they're gonna get them drinks, right? It's a classic Western saloon. And I get back into the sheriff's
back
office,
at the jail,
right?
And
then he sees a wanted poster
with Daniel Craig's picture on it,
and the name is Jake Lonergan.
Yes, Jake Lonergan, and he is a wanted man,
right? So not just for bank robbery, but also for murder.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's gonna have to approach him, right?
Yep.
Because he's a man of the law, and that's what he's gonna do. And it's tough because at this point, you like the Daniel Craig character, and like, oh wow, okay, well, let's see where this goes.
And you can tell, the sheriff, you can tell Taggart has some respect for him because he stood up to Percy and all that, and you can kind of he kind of has that reaction to the wanted poster that is like, damn,
shit.
It's like,
yep. I gotta
go take this guy in. I don't want to, but I got to.
So he goes across, and then it's always very classic. But instead of this time, it's the lawman coming in from behind, right? The fugitive or the con, because Daniel Craig, he's just standing there at the bar. He's having his drink, and the sheriff comes in and just calls him by his name.
Yeah, Jake Lonergan.
Of course, because he has amnesia, he doesn't turn around.
Yeah,
he just sits there, and he's like, it's like, is that name supposed to mean anything, right? Oh, you know what? This is actually after the scene. So we'll get back to this. Let's get back to the scene.
Okay.
So before he comes in, this is the scene where we get back to kind of outside of town, and there's these three kind of little cowboys, right? And they're sitting around a campfire, drinking burned coffee.
Ah, yes.
And one of them is clearly drunk.
Yes. One of them is drunk off his ass.
And these three
work for Dollarhide. Yes, they work for Dollarhide.
And the drunk one says, like, I don't care if Mr. Dollarhide knows that I'm drunk and all this, right? And he's mouthing off to these other two, right? And this is...
Walks over to the creek bed. To the creek right behind him.
Anyway, go on. Yeah, you keep going on.
He walks over to the creek. He's still going on and on about, I don't care about Dollarhide. I'm just gonna sit here and drink. I'm gonna, I don't need to go and get his cattle. And so he walks over to the creek, and
they do have a bunch of cows around. They've wrestled a bunch of their cows. So cows, right?
He drops trow, and squats over the edge of the creek. Well, he's still going on and on.
I mean, it's the Old West. He's drunk. He's not digging a little train. He's just gonna take he's gonna take a dump. Well, he's gonna take a dump.
Yeah,
right.
He's just gonna take a dump in the creek, and then there's an explosion, and he gets launched into the water. I mean, that was a wicked fart.
It was.
And then while he's underwater, we just see all these flashing lights and more explosions from his point of view underwater. We see all this stuff going on outside of the water.
It's kind of crazy. Yes.
So there's the beginnings of your Chekhov's Alien.
Yeah, and he wakes up and he doesn't wake up, but he gets out of the creek bed, right? And the entire place is it's a big crater and explosion area, right? He can't find his two buddies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the cows have been blown in half, right? Yeah. There's they're some of them have been completely incinerated, and others have massive chunks missing out of them.
Yeah.
So, this is I was watching. It's oh yeah, again, I think this might have been my second, maybe my third time watching this, and I completely forgot there was a scene in this movie where a guy just takes an explosive crap.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably my fourth or fifth time watching it, I think. I mean, I saw it once in the theater, and then once after I got the Blu-ray. Once or twice after I got the Blu-ray. And then I don't know. I might have watched it once since then. But yeah, it's been probably 15 years or so since I've seen it. Well, maybe not quite 15. Maybe 10, 12 years since I've seen it.
Also forgot to mention that the actor that plays the guy I was saying the Dollar that's not going to like this, that is Adam Beach, by the way. He plays Nat Colorado.
Yes.
Who is of Apache descendancy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so it's after this scene when they cut back to the town and then the saloon. And they approach Lanigan, right?
Yeah.
And the deputy, by the way, is played by Brian Duffy.
Yes.
The one that got shot. So anyway. And of course, so they approach him, and of course, they call him by his name, and he's confused because, again, he has no memory of who he is.
And he's still got this metal thing on his wrist.
Yes.
Nobody knows what it is.
And right before the sheriff walks in, he has a conversation with Olivia Wilde. Right? It's kind of a friendly conversation. Right? And so then essentially, what happens after this is he just starts, a bar fight starts. Between Lanigan and the sheriff and some of the townsmen.
You can't have a Western movie set in a saloon without a bar fight.
There's even, then there's the backup bartender shows up and he just starts singing.
Mm-hmm.
My little buttercup. There's two guys up there. Hey, look at the little sissies.
Look at the little sissy gone.
You want to die with a man?
You want to die with a man's gone. Not this little sissy gone.
Today, he turns 37 years old. We will do Three Amigos.
We will.
That could have been our first Western.
It could have been. But nope. Cowboys and Aliens.
Anyway, so Yeah, they're fighting, and all of a sudden, Jake gets knocked out, and he gets knocked out by none other than Olivia Wilde.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, then we cut back.
And in his defense, she did sucker punch him. She snuck up behind him,
yes,
and knocked him in the back of the head.
I wouldn't expect Olivia Wilde to do that to me, and even if I did, I might let her.
Yeah, I might be okay with it. But
so, yeah. Anyway, so then we cut back. This time it's we cut to Harrison Ford. Now he plays Mr. Dollarhide.
He plays Woodrow Dollarhide.
Woodrow Dollarhide.
Which, I mean, for a rich man to be named Dollarhide, I mean, it's kind of on the nose.
Yes. Which is kind of very classically Western, though, at the same time.
It is.
And he's questioning his guy that, about where the cattle went. Like, what happened to the cattle? Mm-hmm. And he's not believing the story that he went to take a dump.
And farted and everything exploded.
And meanwhile, he's tied between two horses.
Yeah.
Which, it looks like he might get quartered. Right?
Yeah.
But that's when Nat shows up and says that there's been trouble and that Percy's been arrested. And so and then he's like, not again. So he cuts the rope on the one end.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The guy's he's very thankful that he's not going to get pulled apart.
Quartered.
But then he slaps the butt of the other horse.
And the guy gets dragged away. So yeah, he may not get quartered, but he's getting some serious road rash.
Yes. So we cut back to Absolution, and now we're in the jail cell, and Jake's having a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so the first of several flashbacks he's getting.
Yeah, just brief glimpses of
these first few ones are very kind of confusing. Like they'll get more, the gaps will get filled in more.
Yes,
as the story progresses. It's very kind of fuzzy and blurry. There's not much to make out with it so far. And then he wakes up, and he has Percy is spitting on him in the next cell.
Mm-hmm. Because Percy's just a little bitch. Essentially.
So, and then, he gets a good punch in on Percy, right? And, we hear that the sheriff is basically going to take them, the next town, and he's going to take, he's going to bring Lonigan to the marshal. And then he'll face trial and justice and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're just kind of waiting for the transport to come to bring them, to the next, I guess, the bigger town, so to speak. But then before that happens, that little bracelet that's on Lonigan's wrist.
So at this point, it's nighttime. The sun has gone down. They have him in the jail coach. And the little bracelet that's on Jake's wrist starts beeping. And there's a light that starts lighting up on it. And he's like, what's this? What's going on?
Yeah. And then we kind of cut to the town people outside. We got the sheriff and we got Olivia Wilde. And then, that's when Dollarhide shows up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just before the bracelet starts beeping and lighting up, right? Is just prior to that. Right. And, he is not happy.
He is not happy at all. And his son was arrested. And,
so,
this town is being ungrateful for everything that he's given them.
Right. That's right. And then they start going forth, and then they see these bright lights off on the horizon. Right. It's almost kind of fiery, right?
Mm-hmm. Did we get to the point where? Did we get to the point where we found out that so Dollarhide was a colonel?
Yeah, have they talked about
in the army?
Someone, I think this one they probably have talked about.
Because I thought it was the scene when he was talking to the drunk guy.
Yes,
that it was there because he called him Colonel, and he said, "Don't ever call me Colonel," because he doesn't want to be reminded of his time at war during the Civil War. And so, so that's a little backstory for him. That
it is. And it gets into it because people will talk about his war stories later.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that has been introduced. We have a little bit of his backstory as well. But yeah, they see these bright lights in the distance, and it's getting closer, right? And everyone in town is kind of looking at it and trying to figure out what this is. Right, and then it starts slowly getting like this humming noise that's coming in, right? And then it just starts shooting these beams.
Yeah,
right.
Things start exploding.
We told you that aliens are coming.
Yep,
the aliens have come.
The aliens have come,
and they have no idea what to do with any of this.
Yeah. So they're shooting. The aliens are shooting. These beams at everything and blowing stuff up. Things are on fire, but then they're also like firing like these grappling hooks. Like into
people.
Basically, they're lassoing people.
Yes.
Because it's a cowboy movie. So they're lassoing people.
Be like cowboys too.
Yeah. They're lassoing people and sort of pulling them up. They're snatched up and like hooked to the bottom of the ships that are flying through.
Yeah. Right. And you got people getting snatched up. You got buildings blowing up, and then you have Lonigan and his little wristlet, and he's able to. It fires.
Yeah.
As a weapon,
because this little hologram thing pops up on top of it too.
Yes.
And he's pointing around, and it fires. It goes off, and this laser beam flies out of it and blows the whole back half of the carriage that they're in off.
Yeah, that's right, because they've been loaded into the carriage. That's right,
yeah.
They've been loaded into the carriage to take them away, and so they get out, right, and they're trying to fight all. They start trying to join the battle. Well, not really Percy. Percy's still too kind of shell shocked with everything that's happening, right? But eventually, right, we see the sheriff will get snatched up, right? Percy gets snatched up. We see Maria get snatched up as well, right? And a bunch of other townsfolk. They all get snatched up.
A bunch of other townsfolk who are not important enough to the plot to get names.
Yes. And that's the but so during this, then after he blows him out of the carriage, right? He's also able to use the bracelet or the wristlet to actually shoot down one of the ships. Right?
And it comes crashing down right in the middle of the street.
And the thing about it too is he just kind of points it. It's not like he's pressing any button.
Yeah, no, he just points it
or doing anything.
And it fires.
It's he's almost controlled by his mind, which we will find out that later, right? But that's even at this point, you kind of get this idea that it's really more thought control, as opposed to being a manual type of control, right? So the rest of the ships, they fly off, right? And the rest of the people in the town, was all left kind of stunned, and they got to figure out what are they going to do, right? Well, they're going to get the posse together.
And Doc is distraught because his wife just got taken away.
Yes.
And Emmett is distraught because his grandpa got taken away.
And Dollarhide's distraught
because his son got taken away.
His son got taken away. Is Lonigan distraught? Nah.
Not really. because Olivia Wilde, or as I have her down in my notes, Heidi McHotness, she is about to get taken. And Jake, rescues her. He keeps her from getting taken.
That's right.
So, yeah, and she plays Ella Swenson, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to remember if they actually gave her a name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ella Swenson.
But yeah, so Lonergan, rescues Ella from being taken by the aliens. And so they sort of takes her over and they hide her under a deck.
Right. Yes.
Until everything, till the aliens go away. And then, so after that, everybody's all distraught because their loved ones got taken. And they decide they're going to form a posse and go hunt these aliens down and get their people back.
Classic Western, right?
Classic Western.
Let's get a posse together. Yes, let's do it.
Classic Western. It's awesome. And so, we have everybody.
There's almost even like a Seven Samurai Magnificent Seven vibe, right?
Yeah.
We're going to defend this town.
Exactly.
We're going to get a collection. We're going to get a crew together.
Exactly. So we end up, this posse consists of all, the people that you would assume it would. You got Jake Lonergan, you got Dollarhide, you got Doc, you got Meacham, you got Ella, and you got Nat, because Nat's their tracker.
Yes, because again, he's Apache.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have, we said Emmett, that's right. Yeah.
You got Emmett.
Right.
The child. Well, first up, they had all the men going, the men and Emmett going, and then Ella wanted to go too. So she's talking to Meacham.
Yes.
And Meacham's like, well, we already got a kid coming with us. Why not a woman too?
Why not a woman? So they go off. But then, again, Lonergan, he's not necessarily, he doesn't have the connection. Like, you know what? I survived this. I can do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he has a memory of where his house is.
Yeah.
Right? So he finds the house. This is the next day.
Yep.
And he has this memory. There's this woman in the house. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And she is played by Abigail Spencer. Right? And he's in this house and he looks up and there's this giant hole in the house, right? In the roof of the house. And, we don't know how far outside this town is, and it's kind of nestled against this ridge or this mountain, right? It's secluded enough, right? And he drops this bag in this. He's having this flashback. He drops this bag of gold, and this is enough money that we need, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So when after he's been arrested, the sheriff tells him that he's wanted for murder along with the bank robbery, right?
Yeah.
Or robbery.
And the murder that he's wanted for is
he's like, oh, he's like murder.
Yeah, and he tells him he murdered his wife.
Yeah. So that's an important piece, because then we see her in this flashback, and then there's a bag of gold, and all of a sudden it kind of starts melting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you see her kind of getting snatched up through the hole in the roof as it blows open, right?
Yeah.
And that's the rest of the flashback, right? And so that's when he decides to rejoin the rest of the posse, right?
Yeah. So
because he now he's kind of understanding his kind of connection with these aliens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and when he rejoins them, right? Ella.
Oh,
they took my people too.
By the way, what we missed was when he shot the alien ship down. Then the alien actually got out of it, and he shot that too. He shot that with his little wrist rocket thing, and killed the alien.
I like that wrist rocket.
So
Snot rocket.
So yeah, he was able to kill one of the aliens. Which is important because now everybody realizes that he has this powerful gun on his arm.
And they might need him.
And, Dollarhide even calls it an arm gun.
Yeah. It's essentially what it's like, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we join them, Ella mentions that, they took her people too. Right? Mm-hmm. Because it's obvious like no one in town really knows who she is.
No, she's kind of a drifter.
She kind of showed up just like Lonigan.
Yeah.
So they're going around. They're trying to track. Well, again, he also, I guess they because they shot, like you said, they shot one of them, and the thing tried to escape, and so they tracked it as far as they could.
Yeah,
essentially. So they're continuing to they're going forward, right? And then it's starting to rain. It's and the sun's gone down, and they approach a freaking riverboat that's upside down.
They find, and it had just started raining, and so hey, look, shouldn't that boat be
right side up,
and in the water?
And someone's like, I'm more concerned that the biggest river that can hold a boat like that is 500 miles away. And I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more to be the man that walked 1,000 miles to
fall down at your door.
I like Arrivederci, Fiero.
Arrivederci, Fiero.
Or, Benny and June, but that's... Anyway. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So they take shelter in this riverboat. And, they're going around, and there's, you have the scene where, like, Emmett is kind of naturally drawn to, like, Dollarhide, right?
Yeah.
So he's kind of sitting with Dollarhide, and Colorado, right? Or Nat.
Well, actually, first, so you got Nat in there also.
Yeah.
Nat's with Dollarhide also. And he's, he reminds him of, his old war stories.
Yeah.
And he's like, where did you hear those? And he's like, I heard when you would tell Percy these stories growing up.
He's like, those stories weren't meant for you.
Yeah, those stories aren't for you. They're for my son. Just showing where, how he's always thought of Nat. He's just this Apache boy that came to live with him.
It's an interesting, development, right?
Yeah.
Because when you meet Nat, you get this impression that he's very devoted to Dollarhide.
Yes. Very.
And then you get that thrown in there where he's like, no, you're just useful to me.
Yeah.
You're my employee.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have any affection towards you.
I may have raised you, but you're not my son. I just gave you a roof over your head growing when,
Even though my biological son, I find embarrassing.
Yeah.
Right?
And so immediately after he tells Nat this, Nat, is understandably, upset and leaves. And then he sees Emmett sitting there, and he starts treating Emmett like he's his son.
Yes. And so he's eating like an apple, and he's got his knife, and he's slicing pieces of the apple, and he's eating, he's poking the slices with the knife.
And eating it off the end of the knife. And then he sees Emmett, sees that he's looking at his knife. And he's like, I noticed you've been looking at this knife. You like this knife? And Emmett nods his head. And
so he tells him a story about the knife.
Yeah. Well, no, he doesn't tell him a story yet.
Knife, about a knife.
No, he doesn't tell him that story yet. But he's like, as soon as Emmett, nods his head that he likes the knife, he gives him the knife.
That's right.
It's like, here, you take care of that. Don't lose it.
It's important that he doesn't lose it.
No, he doesn't. It comes in handy later.
It's important that he doesn't lose the knife.
It comes in handy later. But yeah, so Yeah, here's this. He just had this really rough, conversation with Nat, and then he turns around and treats this kid that he just met like a son,
or a grandson,
mm-hmm.
right? That level, right?
Yeah.
And they're having these conversations about it, and he's even just saying that he talks about how he's not going to call the army because he finds like it's like the West Point would be useless.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it brings to the point. It's an interesting point because again, it's the Old West. It's post Civil War, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's ever. They don't really establish it, but it's basically like, because it's Apache, you're talking like Arizona and New Mexico territory, like the Four Corners, right? So it's not like you have quick communication to people, and even there, like you're not even gonna have. Again, it's like to get to the nearest U.S. fort, it's still not going to be very quick, and to be able to muster like a cavalry or troops to help, right?
Yeah.
But then you get this riverboat, which just kind of begs the question, like, well, not okay. So yeah, how do they get out there, and why so far away from the nearest huge river?
And why is it upside down?
Why is it upside down? It's like, okay, and then again, because like it's not the age of the internet, right, or TV. Like, is this happening in other parts of the country?
Yeah.
Right. Because we find out what the aliens are looking for later.
Yeah,
we don't know that yet. Yeah. So like this could be happening, and this could be just like Signs or Independence Day,
where it's happening all over the world. It's not necessarily just an isolated incident right here.
But again, it's it's probably like the 1870s, 1880s, right? And they're out on the frontier. They're not necessarily going to know if this is kind of a isolated random occurrence or larger. So,
and I mean, that's never really stated if it is or not. Like throughout the movie, we never.
No, actually, that's a good point.
We never get any indication that it's happening anywhere else in the world.
So, get back, and now we have Lonigan. He's going around the ship, and he's trying to figure things out, and he's talking. We see Olivia Wilde or Ella Swenson, right? Looking around, and finally, we cut back to the boy, Emmett, and it looks like he's kind of in a large. He ends up kind of being this larger, kind of like the dining room area.
Mm-hmm.
What would have been like the dining room area of the ship, right?
Yeah.
Like the great hall area. And this alien shows up.
Well,
right.
Before that, so Meacham is with Doc.
That's right. Yes. So talking. That's right. He's teaching.
Yes.
Yeah, he's teaching Doc how to shoot.
Before, when they first formed the posse, then Meacham went over to Doc and he's like, you should get a gun.
Yes, I forgot about.
If you want some advice, you should get a gun. And Doc had never fired a gun before, and so Meacham decides they're going to take this downtime in the upside down riverboat to teach Doc how to shoot.
Some target practice. Yeah, and they're just getting bottles out there, and he's missing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Clancy Brown in this. He's reassuring, right? And he's giving his spiritual advice.
Yeah.
And so and he leaves Doc. So and Doc, he tells him that he tries to be as reassuring as he can that he'll be able to rise to the occasion.
And I love when was it in the boat that Meacham's talking to Lonergan? Or was it a little bit earlier than this when, he's telling him, basically when Lonergan, asked him if, when they're talking about it, whether or not Lonergan is a good man.
Yes,
You know, he's
right.
like, I've seen bad people do good things, and I've seen good people do bad things.
I think now it's on the ship. Like, yeah, just before the ship, the riverboat, I should say, because there's another ship later that's the alien ship.
But because this is when he's like, I've seen bad people do good things. I've seen good people do bad things. It doesn't really matter what you've done. It's what you do now that matters.
Yes. And again, like it gets, you know, we mentioned this earlier. I think one of the things I like about the movie, again, it's not a perfect movie. It's not a great movie, but it doesn't present the traditional heroes, right? They just do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
In a very no nonsense Western way.
Yeah.
Right. You know, they may not be perfect people, but they need to be the people that rise to the occasion in this specific circumstance.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. And it's kind of the same advice it's kind of giving the Doc, even though Doc is missing every bottle left and right. Right? He's telling us he's got to keep the gun tighter to his shoulder, right? You know, he's showing how to shoot like a rifle, right? So, that's when we get back in Emmett. He's exploring further on the boat. That's when the alien shows up, right?
Yeah.
And then, the alien he's got this, again, this kind of ugly face. And like it's, and then it's like abdomen, right? It's kind of like really more like an exoskeleton, right? You can kind of open up and these slimy hands kind of come out. Right? But that's when Meacham shows back up.
Yeah.
Right.
So, the whole chest opening up with the tiny little hands that pop out is just kind of goofy.
It is.
It's like,
yes.
I don't know how practical it would actually be.
I agree.
Especially with what happens later. But we'll get to that. But so that's when Meacham shows up and shoots the galaxies on Orion's belt. But
anyway,
Meacham shows
shoots
up, shoots it in the back. But, a little bullet's not going to do much to hurt this giant alien.
It's a giant, I mean, they're big, and again, like, it seems like, again, like, kind of have a slight exoskeleton going on, right? And then, it turns around and it's able to like stab him, like Meacham, like in the throat. Right?
So I thought it was in the stomach. I thought he just basically it just ran his hand through.
That's right. Yeah, it runs his hand through his through his stomach, abdomen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they kind of lifts him up and throws him to the side, right? But Lonigan's able to come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's able to shoot the thing dead with his wrist cannon.
Yeah.
Right. And so then they run over to Meacham, right? And Meacham just, he dies there, right? Because Olivia Wilde Ella's with them as well. So he dies.
The next morning, they bury him.
And they bury him. They put, they make a wooden cross.
Yeah. Your cowboy funeral.
Yeah, cowboy funeral. And then it's funny, Doc, who earlier is not showing much faith because his wife's just been taken by aliens.
Yeah.
Right.
He
was expressing doubt, but he's the one's like, well, shouldn't we say a prayer? He was a man of faith.
Yeah, shouldn't we say some
shouldn't
words?
We respect that?
And Dollarhide doesn't want to wait. He doesn't want to take the time to do that. He's like, we already wasted enough time burying him.
So Dollarhide and the rest, they start running off.
And Doc and Jake stay behind.
And Jake stay behind. And
Doc says
Jake
a few
doesn't
words.
really say anything. Doc basically says a few words. He's like, it's like, I don't know if there's a God, but he believed that there was one. And he was a better man for it, and so forth. And kind of a very, genuine, like eulogy to Meacham. And Jake just looks at him. He's like, "Yep, amen." Right, and then they ride off. Right, So they continue going on, and they're almost kind of coming through this cut through between, these cliffs, right? And Walter Goggins walks out.
Yes, Walton Goggins walks out to stick him up and recognizes Jake Lonergan.
He's like, Jake.
He's like, boss. Is that you? You have a new posse?
So Walter Goggins, he plays Hunt.
Mm-hmm. Walton Goggins, I love Walton Goggins. He is, the first thing I saw him in was The Shield.
Yes,
he plays a very serious character in that, but he's so good in it. But
it's funny, it's like since
he's
then,
one of those actors that can do just about anything.
Yeah,
he can do serious, he can do comical, he can do good guy, bad guy, whatever. He's a very versatile actor.
Sam Rockwell's in this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's also very versatile.
Yes, he is.
Sam Rockwell eventually won an Oscar. I think Walter Goggins is going to find the perfect role one day for him.
I think Walton Goggins
and win an Oscar.
Yeah,
he hasn't been nominated yet, and he'd be one of those ones that probably get like one nomination, and he'll win for that nomination because someone will find a perfect role for him. And like most roles he's in are kind of perfect for him, but they'll find that perfect role in terms of the one that wins a bunch of awards. And because he is so good.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up winning an Emmy for his work in Fallout.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny, like, he is. I think it's funny because, like, you hear the name Walter Goggins, it sounds like he should be like 80 years old, but he's like 50.
Yeah,
right. He's not nearly as old, but we talked about the Bourne movies. He was in Bourne Identity.
Yes, he was.
Right. He was also uncredited in Joyride. Thinking about some of his early movies. Mm-hmm. Shanghai Noon. Hey, I didn't even realize this.
He was in Shanghai Noon, so I guess that was the first thing I saw him in, not The Shield.
Unless you saw the next Karate Kid.
I did not see that when it came out. I've only seen a few minutes of that movie, of the next Karate Kid.
But Predators, and then obviously he's become a favorite of Tarantino recently, and Django and Hateful Eight. I mean, he got a voice role in
playing more cowboys.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right? So, but yeah, and again, he's terrific. Oh my, he's even been in Murder, She Wrote.
Oh,
he was in one of the TV movies that came out after the series ended.
Wow,
he was in one of those.
Why haven't we started a game for people in Murder, She Wrote yet? We have Who's Who of Doctor Who, but we don't have anything about Murder, She Wrote. And we mentioned it so many times. We've talked about at length about Murder, She Wrote.
Anyway, so he comes up. It's like, oh yeah, you got a new posse. And Jake, he's trying to play it cool because he doesn't quite recognize him again because his memory's still not all there, right? And he doesn't want to seem like he's ditched these guys because he doesn't know how dangerous they might be.
Yeah.
Right? So he's doing what he can to diffuse the situation. Right?
And then Walton Goggins just keeps going on, and Jake punches him in the face. He just punches him right in the mouth, breaks one of his teeth. And you get the sense that, that's not the first time he's done that to him.
No, not the first time.
Because it seems like the rest of the people that are there with Hunt, they seem like that's a normal occurrence.
Oh yeah. Jake punches him, right? So he takes him the rest of the posse, right? And they're spending the time. They're spending a little bit of time. Kind of catching up. But there's a couple there that they don't trust.
Yeah, and then first off, Hunt goes in first, and the new leader of the new posse, leader.
Yes.
He notices his tooth. He's like, "What happened there?" And he's like, "He did." And Jake walks up.
Yeah, right, and then that's when we find out that on the last heist, Jake stole the loot.
Yes, Jake stole the loot,
and so the new guy, the new leader, right? He's not too happy. He's not going to have him back, right? Which yeah, you get it. His name is Pat Dolan, played by David O'Hara, who we have covered in Braveheart.
Yes.
He played Stephen the Irishman.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
The Lord thinks he can get me out of this, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Ah! The Lord says he's going to get me out of this, but he's pretty sure you're fucked. Ah!
He doesn't quite have the same sense of humor in this movie.
No, he doesn't.
So he's ready to kill him right there, essentially. Right? But again, this movie is called Cowboys and Aliens.
Yep.
And we haven't had a whole lot of aliens. We had the alien on the steamboat, right?
Well, aliens don't come just yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
But yeah, so Jake is trying to convince them to come with him and join their posse to go take out these aliens. And Pat is not having it.
Yeah.
Pat is like, these are my people now. You're not the boss anymore. You stole our money, and we're going to kill you. And
again,
so he
perfectly acceptable response.
And he sees Ella standing over there. He's like, "Is that the whore?"
Yeah, is that the whore that you left us for? You stole from. And then now, Jake
is starting to get pissed now. He's like, "Don't
you crossed the line here?
Don't call her that." And he calls her a whore again. And he's like, "If you call her a whore one more time, that's the last thing you'll say." And so they're going on and on a little bit more, talking more, and they've got their guns trained on Jake, and they've got him down on his knees, and they're basically gonna execute him. And then, I guess he's standing because he says the second time that he calls Ella a whore is when he's like, "Put your guns on him, boys. If he twitches, kill the whore." And so that's when he's like, "If you call her a whore one more time, it's the last thing you'll ever say." And so eventually he does it one more time. And Jake blows a hole in his chest.
He's kind of like some of the people in the John Wick movies.
Yeah.
Like, I could take on John Wick.
No, you can't.
No, you can't. Like, okay, yeah, I know you're the new leader of this posse, but you know Jake, and I think you should probably be fairly aware that you're probably not as good as he is. And it's pretty clear that a lot of that crew still has affection towards Jake.
Yeah. Yeah. So he does it one more time.
He gets a hole in the chest.
He raises up his left arm and just blows a hole in Pat's chest. Sends him back about 10 feet. And he's dead on the ground.
And considering he did it with this wrist cannon,
no
one else really wants to mess with him at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's got control of his posse again.
Well, not really.
Not, yeah.
Because they still don't want to come with them.
No, they don't. But, well, yeah, that's true. So, but that's at the point then when
because they don't want to. They've been planning this stagecoach heist.
That's right. That's right. There's a stagecoach heist,
and so that's why they don't want to go with them, because they're supposed to rip off the stagecoach. And so they're still going to go along with that plan, even though their new boss is dead. So we have Red.
They want Jake to help them with it, right?
Yeah. So
and he refuses, and so they start to ride off, and they're gonna chase them, and that's when we get aliens again.
Yes. And Red, one of the bandits, one of the crooks, is the one that steps up to be the new leader.
That's
Red,
right.
He's wearing a big fur poncho, and he then becomes the new leader after Pat got killed. We get more from him later. But yeah, so the aliens come again. And this time,
it's not in a town, it's out in the open desert.
Yep. And we get
it's very similar. You got people being snatched up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're all on horses, they're riding off, and one of the ones that gets captured is Ella.
Yeah, Ella gets lassoed by one of these ships flying overhead, and Jake is on a horse this time, and he chases it. He's chasing it. It's flying over a canyon, and as it dips down about level with the ground at the top of the canyon, Jake jumps onto the back of it. And so
now he's riding the thing, and kind of have a conversation about how they're flying.
Yeah. He's like, we're flying.
This is where you get a good view that they're being kind of they're being kind of held almost kind of how you would think of a bird of prey carrying it's it's prey.
Ella is
that's talons.
She's sort of wrapped up in the cable that it used to lasso her, and she's just attached to the bottom of this thing, under the wing.
Yep.
And Jake is on top of the wing, and the wings are basically three different wings that sort of fluctuate, and they'll move around like flaps.
Yeah.
And so Jake, as they're flying over the river, then he asks Ella if she knows how to swim. And right away she knows what he's thinking. Yes. And so he tells her to look away, to turn her head. And so he reaches his hand down there and shoots, with his arm cannon. And
into the wing, and it releases her, and then obviously the wing breaks off as well, and so he drops off.
So the two of them fall into the water, and the ship crashes.
Yes. With Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah.
Not Independence Day, sorry.
No. But so they get out of the water. They
get all into the river bank.
And this is when Jake is like, we were flying. And I was like, yeah. And Jake's like, let's never do that again.
Which, hey, if you're living in the, last quarter of the 19th century and you've never seen something fly and you flew, especially, not in a controlled environment like an airplane.
Yeah.
You might think that.
Yeah. So they're, realizing that they just survived flying, something that hardly anybody has done yet in the world.
Not just survived
at this
flying,
time.
They actually survived crashing while flying.
Yes. And then the alien that was flying the ship gets up. he gets out of the ship and attacks them.
Yes.
And he hits Ella and throws her off to the side. And then I'm trying to remember, does Jake kill it?
Jake kills it.
Yeah, Jake kills it. He shoots it with his wrist rocket. And then goes over to Ella, and she is very badly injured.
She's severely wounded, yeah.
She's got a gash in her abdomen, and, you know, she's basically dying. And so Jake is not going to let that happen. You know, so he picks her up, and he's trying to carry her back to the posse, to where Doc is, so he can perform some medical wonders on her.
Yes.
Because not only is he a saloon owner, but he's also a doctor. Hence the name Doc.
Guy.
Anyway,
but then he finds out, you know, they've all been captured by these Apaches.
Well, no, first he gets back to the group because they see him walking up, and he's carrying. He walks for miles. He's carrying her.
Yeah, he's yeah.
And, you know, she's kind of drifting in and out of consciousness, and he's like, "It's okay, you'll be okay. I'm going to get you help." And he gets her there and puts her on the ground, and she's dead.
Yes.
You know, Doc gets down there. He's like feeling for a pulse.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's like
listening for breathing, and yeah, she's gone. She's dead. And so this is when they get captured by a group of Apaches.
And so the Apaches, they capture them. They wrap her up, right,
and toss her in the bonfire.
Yeah, so they now they go to their camp, and it's nighttime. They toss in the bonfire, right?
And meanwhile, Jake is like, they've got him on the ground, and he's just laying there watching all this. And you can see the pain in his eyes. Yeah, this woman that he was starting to have feelings for, that he was starting to form a bond with.
Yeah,
not only is she dead, but she's just being tossed into a fire.
The fire rises.
And so then we get, the posse is being treated like prisoners, right? And
this has a lot of this reminds me of Return of the Jedi, to be honest.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because yes, me too.
Because they're talking, and again, remember Nat, he's Apache, so he knows.
Yeah, so he's trying to communicate with them. He knows the Apache language, and he knows English, so he's sort of translating.
And the Apaches, they're blaming the white man for bringing. They're also calling them the devils or the demons.
The demons,
right? And so they're all having this argument, right? And then Luke Skywalker starts, levitating C-3PO.
Yeah.
And that just gets them to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the C-3PO tells the
Battle of Andor.
And then they make friends with the Ewoks.
Anyway, so no. No, instead
the fire
is all Jean Grey.
Well, yeah, the fire starts going crazy.
Yeah.
Like the flames, start rising, they start like popping, and all of a sudden you get this like mist particle type cloud going on in the middle of the flames.
That's a good way of saying it.
And all of a sudden there's a naked Olivia Wilde standing in the middle of the fire.
Or at least Olivia Wilde's body double.
Yeah. But so I mean, it only shows from the back, and the flames
got hair.
The flames are covering up her butt, and you just see her back and her shoulders.
Yeah. But then, Jake, because he's a sensitive man,
Yes.
Covers her in a blanket.
Yes, he grabs a blanket, walks up to her, but he takes a while putting that blanket around her.
he blocks everyone's view.
He stands between her and everybody else. But as he's like he throws the blanket around her, grabs the other side of it, and then holds it open for a few more seconds before wrapping it around her.
You didn't turn. You were supposed to turn. Turn the head while you wrap the blanket.
So
anyway, so we now discover that she's also an alien.
yes, so
But a different alien.
Yeah, so yeah, then we have
alien,
a little
different race. But yeah,
we have a little exposition dump while they're all, sitting in a circle. She's now clothed.
I mean, she's got the Apaches even listening to her at this point because
she's got clothed.
I mean,
and she speaks
she's
Apache.
a dead person that resurrected in a fire.
Yeah. She is literally a phoenix. So, yeah, and she speaks Apache.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, so she's explaining what's going on to everybody.
Yeah.
And how
they did this to her people also.
Yeah.
And she came here to, help.
So they're like, "Are you one of them?" And she's like, No, I'm from somewhere else. But they did this to my people.
Right. And she was saying, like, what they want is not much different than what you want. Gold.
Yeah, they want gold. And I love Dollarhead's reaction when she says they want gold. He's like, well, that's just ridiculous. What are they going to do? Buy something?
Yes, I wrote that down too. And he said it. It said in only the way Harrison Ford is going to say it too.
So, anyway, so they're now part of the tribe. They're they're friends now. They're not prisoners.
They're not prisoners. They're not adversaries, right? And you're saying, like, yeah, they've captured your people, and like these are mostly, they have a ship somewhere out there. And they're mostly, probably just scouts.
Beneath the pale moonlight?
People come. Right?
They're somewhere out there beneath the pale moonlight? Somewhere out there beneath the pale moonlight.
They ask, like, well, where's the base? Right? And she looks at Jake and she says, he knows.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what?
She's like, yeah, he's been there.
Your dream. And she's like, no, your dreams, right? That your wristband, like, no, you know where it is.
Yeah. You've been there. You just don't remember.
I have no idea where. And then the pastor's like, we have people that can take care of that.
We have people we got you covered.
So they do their general, you kind of what you would kind of think your typical kind of medicine man.
Mm-hmm. So they give him some peyote,
American thing,
and they get him to hallucinate a little bit,
and he has his whole vision, and like he has his vision where he's like on this table, right, and then his former wife or lover, right?
Well, first
they're next to him.
First, it's they're back at the house.
That's right.
And they're laying on the ground, and he looks over at her, and she's just like laying there looking at him. And then she just starts kind of like jerking up and down, like why would she be moving like that? And then it sort of, rather than being outside, it sort of morphs into the inside of the ship on these tables. Right. And, they're on tables side, like next to each other. And it's showing her that she's in that same position, and she's sort of like moving up and down a little bit, and then we it pans out and you see there's an alien standing over her, kind of digging into her.
Yeah, just
like,
doing whatever.
Kind of doing an autopsy or something, experimentation on her. And Jake is strapped to this table, and he can't do anything about it.
He can't do anything about it.
He's just watching his wife be experimented on. And then the alien touches her with something, and all of a sudden it's just this heat just goes across her body and just instantly turns her to ash.
Yeah. Again, this movie is actually pretty intense in certain scenes.
Yeah.
Like, he's got quite the backstory here that we...
Mm-hmm. So then after the alien, reduces Lonergan's wife to ash, then reduces Alice to ash, then, he turns and walks toward Jake, and he's got this wrist thing on. And as he's walking over there, I don't understand this part, right? He takes the thing off.
You gotta have
He takes the wrist thing off, which, I mean, I get, maybe he has to get into some positions and move around to where that's just going to get in the way. I get that. I get why he might take it off.
But it should have been off in the first place.
But he takes it off, sticks it right next to Jake. There's a table. There's a little table right next to where he's standing. He could have put it on that. No, he puts it right next to Jake on the opposite side of the table that Jake is on from him. So he reaches over Jake to put it down right next to him.
hey, he, and I would say he's just a scout, but no, like he's part of the kind of
he's clearly one of the research teams. Yeah, he's clearly one of the scientists in there. And so then he picks up this laser scalpel kind of thing, and
I mean, it's kind of a cool looking instrument, to be honest.
It is. And he stabs Jake in the side with it.
So now we know where
he got that wound. And
we also know where the bracelet came from because we see it there.
Yeah, we see it there.
Again, like you said.
But right now, it's opened up right next to Jake, right on his left side. And so he stabs Jake in the right side with this laser scalpel thing. And Jake reacts, and I guess he's...
as one would.
Yeah. I guess he breaks loose of his bindings and grabs the thing, pulls it out of his side, and then slashes the alien in the face with it.
As one might.
Yeah. So it cuts down across his eye. So he's got that badass scar. And then as he does that, he throws his other arm down on the side of the table that he's on, not realizing that the bracelet's there, and the bracelet gets, wrapped around his arm.
Right. He's not really even certain at that point what the bracelet might even do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was just moving his arm down there because he needed to get up. And it just happened to land right inside this bracelet that was opened up and positioned perfectly for his wrist to go right into it.
Thank you, stupid alien.
So then you get sort of, it's blurry as he's, gets up and escapes.
Well, he'd obviously be disoriented. I'm sure he even had kind of drugs.
Yeah. So he's disoriented and he sort of stumbles out of there and comes out of the canyon. And so...
and it's blinding to him, right? He's been in the dark, and he's in the canyon.
And now he walks out of the sun, and it's bright, and so now he remembers where it was.
Yep,
he remembers everything now.
Yeah, and he passes out, right? And that's that. Of course, what leads into the opening scene of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But what's more important now is that he knows where the mothership is, the base of operations.
Yes. So, and after he wakes up from his little hallucination dream remembering party, then there's this hummingbird.
Yes.
That comes down, and it's just hovering right over him, and it lands on his finger, and then, takes off again, and it's just hovering around, just flying.
I forgot about the hummingbird. Yeah. Thank you.
And it's like a symbol of, everything's going to be okay. Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, the next day, they were able to, so the Apache are still hesitant to help.
Yes.
To help the white man. Mostly because of Dollarhide.
Yeah. Which I don't blame them.
Yeah. So then you have Nat. He goes over and he's talking to the chief, and he's telling him all this stuff, and Ella is standing over by Dollarhide, and so he asks her to translate.
Yeah, she translates.
Yeah, he asks her, what's he saying to him, and it's like he's saying that this is a good man. He's a great warrior. He's a great warrior. He raised me. He took me in when I was a child, and he raised me. Not only is he a great warrior, but he's a good man.
And then the Apache leaders kind of looks at, because at this time it's Dollarhide, it's Jake, it's Ella, and it's Emmett. But then at this point, Jake has left.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's really only Ella and Emmett.
Yeah.
That are with him.
Really, and
so he's like, all he has is a woman and a boy.
Yeah.
How can he be a great warrior?
Yeah. No, actually, no. He doesn't even mention the woman. He just mentioned he has a man and a boy.
That's right.
He's got Nat and Emmett. He's like, how can he be a great warrior if the only people that'll follow him are a man and a boy?
Dollarhide hears that, and then he kind of gets wounded by that. Like, it's this moment for him to like kind of reassess himself a bit. And,
and all the stuff that Nat is saying about him, he's really realizing, how strongly Nat feels for him.
Yeah, Nat's not bullshitting here at all.
Yeah, he realizes, his mistake, that he made when bringing Nat in, that he should have been treating him differently. He should have been treating him like a son, like he would treat Percy.
And he's feeling bad about those words he spoke on the riverboat.
Mm-hmm.
So you see him, kind of feel it in his gut. So is that when he then has a conversation with Emmett about how he killed the man that he came across when he was?
I think that's the next day. I think that's the next morning.
That's right, when they're kind of waiting to storm.
Yeah.
The ship. All right.
So yeah. Then the next morning we have, they agree to help. The Apaches agree to help, but they still won't follow Dollarhide's orders.
Right. And Jake is left because he's going back to get reinforcements.
Yeah. So Jake. So yeah, they all go up and they get to the canyon. They see the ship. They see the mothership there, and they're like, "Is that it?" And Ella's like, "No, most of it's underground. That's where they're getting the gold."
Right. Yeah. Like they have a network of pneumatic tubes that Batman slides around.
Yes.
Those Val Kilmer will pop up in random places.
Yes. Yeah. He pops up all over this ship. There are pneumatic tubes everywhere. Human-sized pneumatic tubes. And yeah. I mean, these aliens must have helped him build them all throughout Gotham.
Yes. It's Tim Robbins and the aliens build the...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I mean, it would make sense because pneumatic tubes nowadays are mostly just used at banks, and the aliens are looking for gold, so they're space bankers.
If the aliens can help the Israelites to build pyramids in Egypt,
yeah,
they can help Tim Robbins build pneumatic tubes in the Old West in Gotham.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
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 Also, Stargate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're going to talk about Ancient Egypt. And anyway.
So we, so Jake, as everybody's, marveling over this spaceship that's buried underground.
He rides off.
He walks over. He quietly just goes off to one of the horses and rides off. And everybody else sees him riding off, and they think he's deserting him.
Yes. So, basically left at the scene where you had the Apaches having a disagreement, really with Dollarhide, about what's the course of action?
Mm-hmm.
The Apaches want to take the high ground, right? But Dollarhide wants to use the horses like a cavalry and kind of flank them in.
Yeah, he wants to sort of go in guns blazing.
Yeah.
And so
and I think that's kind of after they kind of start to formulate their plan, and the Apaches kind of give in to kind of part of what Dollarhide's trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is when he has that little speech with Emmett.
Yes, this is when he has a little speech with Emmett.
He's saying when he was about a boy his age, he wanted to fight also. I think it was kind of...
No, it was in the war. It was one of his war stories.
Oh, that's right.
There was a guy, there was a soldier that he was up against, or the soldier that he was partnered with or something, and he had been wounded, and he told him to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, he was basically mortally wounded.
He was mortally wounded, and he's like, just kill him. Just kill me. And so, and Emmett's like, well, what did you do? He's like, well, I took that knife. I took his knife. I took the man's knife and I slit his throat. And that's the knife that you got. That's the knife I gave you. So.
And Emmett's just like, oh, okay. That's quite a story for, it's probably 10, 12 years old. Kind of in that range. Someone,
And he was given a knife that, was taken off of somebody and then slit that person's throat. And then Harrison Ford was eating apples off it.
Hey, how about them apples?
How about them apples?
Not talking about Minnie Driver.
So
anyway.
So meanwhile, we have Jake. He has ridden back to his old posse.
And he rounds them up.
They don't want to. They don't want to go, but then he reminds them, what do you think's going to happen if we don't take these guys out?
Yeah.
They're going to come after you. They're going to come after, everybody They're going to, and that convinces them.
Yeah, he's pragmatic about it.
Yeah, so they follow him back to the rest of the group. Just in time. So, because they're preparing for the assault.
They're kind of preparing for an assault, the ground battle. They got other people up on the high ground that can kind of scout out and shoot at what's happening. But they're going to use dynamite, right, to kind of blow portions of the top of the ship up, right, to draw out everybody else.
Yeah, and so and then
they're going to attack them.
In order to try to keep Emmett safe, Dollarhide tells him to go and sit on top of that ridge over there behind that rock. And, just sort of watch. And then once he sees...
he gets a little spy... He has a spy glass.
Gives him a spy glass, and he tells him, if you see our people coming out of there, coming out of the canyon, then wave your arms.
Yeah.
The people that were taken. And so... Jake and a couple of a couple of his old guys, climbed up onto one of the upper platforms of this ship, and they're setting explosives. They're lighting some dynamite. They got some sacks full of dynamite, and one of them, the guy with the matches, lights a match and it goes out. And he's like, "Oh no, I don't have any more matches. I can't go down." But he's smoking a cigarette. And so Jake pulls the cigarette out of his mouth and lights the fuse with that. And then, tells the guys to climb down.
And they climb down, they get down.
They start climbing down, but before Jake goes down, he takes a puff on the cigarette and then throws it out. And so he tosses the dynamite up onto the platform, 2 bags of it, and then starts climbing down with the other guys. And shortly after they get to the ground, they just barely get far enough away, and that dynamite goes off.
It goes off, right?
There's a big explosion. And then we have aliens spilling out of the ship.
Yes, and Emmett sees it. He kind of gives a signal that they're out. And now you're having, basically you're kind of stuck with people that are on the ground, kind of almost a hand-to-hand combat type of scenario.
This is the first time we see somebody pop like a zit. So the group that was up setting the dynamite comes out and meets up with another smaller group, and as the explosion is going on and the aliens are coming out, there's some aliens on foot and some that are in the ships flying around.
Yes, right.
And so they're running, and the ships just start firing down at them. And one guy gets a direct hit. It just pops. You just see a splatter of blood.
You gotta love the red shirts in this movie.
So then you have this ground battle, this hand-to-hand combat with
and some people come.
They
have some people coming on horses, and then you have aliens attacking some of the horses and popping the horses like zits. Right,
And so we get one of them has the Apache chief pinned down. And it looks like he's going to kill him, but then Dollarhide comes up from behind and shoots the alien in the head and kills it.
Yes.
And rescues the chief.
And now they have a respect for each other.
Now they have a respect for each other. And then another one, Red, the new leader of Lonergan's gang, he has a bunch of dynamite that he stuck his knife through. And he just jumps onto the back of one of the aliens and stabs him in the back. And it's sort of
noble.
Yeah, it sort of tries to throw him around and tosses him down, and then the dynamite goes off and they both blow up.
It's one of the few ones in here. It's a truly noble sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
It's like he realizes, what, this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to die. I'm going to die like this.
Yep.
So
then you have Emmett up on the ridge, and it looks like he's away from the danger, but one of the aliens comes up behind him.
Yep.
And
it's kind of one of those classic scenes where he's trying to hide from it and searching for him.
Yeah. So he sort of
gives it a little jump scare, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of that classic thing that happens.
Yeah. So he sort of runs down from it, and there's these rocks that are real close together. Sort of a little mini cave.
He's a small kid. He's a kid.
Yeah.
Still, he's not a kid.
No.
But he's not like a teenager either, right? He's right at that adolescent stage.
Yeah.
He's still small enough to slip between the rocks.
Yeah. So he goes and, slips in there, and he's just out of reach of this alien. It can't fit. It's too big to fit through these rocks, and it reaches in there to try to get him, but he's just out of reach. So it gets the bright idea to put its chest up against the fissure between the rocks.
Tom Welling pops up. That fissure wasn't there before.
So it puts its chest up against the fissure and then opens its chest up to reveal these tiny little slimy arms that then start reaching out toward Emmett.
They look like kind of like Clint Howard's little. Anyway,
they look. Yeah, they look like the strong hand from Scary Movie 2.
Anyway, so they're reaching for him.
And that's what we didn't say is like every time, like, because earlier in one of the flashbacks, the scientist did the same thing. He put his little arms out, and you can hear the heartbeat anytime the little arms are out. And so this time you get a good look at it, and the arms are surrounding the heart of this alien.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a very good idea to have tiny little hands right next to these aliens' hearts.
Hey, I don't know how they evolved that way, but they evolved that way.
Yeah. So you can see the heart beating in there and everything. And so just before this alien can grab him with his little arms, then Emmett takes out that knife and stabs it right in the heart, and the alien dies. And Emmett gets green blood all over himself.
Yes, he does.
And meanwhile, Jake and Ella have made their way into the ship. And they're going through, and they come across all the people that were taken. And they're all standing there, like, staring, just enamored in this trance, just staring at this light. There's like this bubble light in the middle of the ceiling. Like it's like a membrane that's filled with liquid and it's lit up.
Yeah, that's a good description.
And they're just staring at it. They're all like, their eyes are glazed over, and so Ella tells Jake not to look at the light. But of course he does.
Or create lights of your own.
So it's kind of like the deadlights in It. But yeah, so they're all staring at it, and Jake starts to go into a trance because he glances at it. And so Ella pulls out her gun and she shoots the thing and busts that membrane, and the light goes out. And then she looks at Jake. She's like, "I told you not to look at the light."
Don't look at the lights.
And so they go over. They start taking the bindings off of the people. And some of them are kind of starting to, their eyes aren't really glazed over anymore, but they're starting to regain consciousness.
Right.
And so Jake's like, "Well, how long does it take for him to get back to normal?" And Ella's like, "Well, it's different for everybody." So she stays behind to release all the cables on everybody, while Jake goes in to further explore a way to destroy the ship.
Yes. And as usual, the solution is you have to blow up the heart.
It's the heart of the ship. So Ella, sets everybody free and leads them all out into the canyon.
Yeah, they all get out of the canyon.
So they're all running out there, and Emmett sees them and starts waving his arms. He's like, "Hey, they're coming, they're coming." And then so Ella goes back in to meet up with Jake. But yeah, so while Ella is getting everybody, setting everybody free, then the aliens are starting to realize what's going on in here, and they're starting to attack. So Jake is kind of goes off. There's a little hallway, and he stands there to try to defend everybody from these aliens. So he's just shooting them. You know, as they pop up, he's just shooting them with his arm cannon.
He's killing all of them.
Yeah. And finally, he gets through all of them that are coming through there, and you know everybody has a chance to escape. But as they're approaching the heart of the ship, Ella tells Jake that she needs his arm cannon. She needs that bracelet in order to set it to self-destruct and to take out the ship.
He's like, I don't know how to get this thing off.
I don't know how to get it off. And she's like, you need to stop thinking. So if stopping thinking was the only way to get it up, then what happened when he was sleeping? You know? Why didn't it come off while he was sleeping? Unless subconsciously he was keeping it on. But anyway, so she kisses him. And then it just falls off his wrist. So basically, that
might get me to stop thinking. Basically,
the only way for him to get this thing off of his wrist is to get an erection.
We've come back to the January series. Unexpectedly, right? You know, Mighty Ducks. No, it wasn't about winning the championship.
Nope. It was about
Charlie's
Gordon
mom.
Bombay wanted to bang Charlie's mom.
No, getting free of the volcano wasn't about. No. It was about Sarah Connor.
It was about James Bond wanting to bang Sarah Connor.
Groundhog Day. No, it wasn't any actual deep revelation about yourself.
Nope.
No.
It was Bill Murray wanting to bang Andy McDowell. Yeah.
And this one is getting a hard on because Olivia Wilde kissed you.
And all of a sudden, the magic wrist rocket falls off your wrist.
Way too many connotations with that. I could just think of Tobey Maguire and his wrist rockets. And Kirsten Dunst.
Oh, Spider-Man.
Because that wasn't a subtle metaphor.
Oh, not subtle at all. Anyway, so she picks up the bracelet that's now open, and she takes it into there's a hatch, and she climbs through there.
Wait, is Desmond in the hatch?
Yes, Desmond is in the hatch.
There's a Scottish dude in the hatch?
Yes.
In the Old West?
Yes. Yes, Desmond has been in the hatch for a very long time. Yeah, so she takes it and says goodbye to him because she knows she's not coming back.
No, yeah, she knows. Yeah.
And sends him off to go with everybody else. And so as he is getting ready to leave, then he gets attacked by another alien.
Right.
And this time he doesn't have his wrist rocket.
However, Indy noticed that someone did not come out of the canyon.
Yes. So he goes to investigate. But
he goes and
meanwhile, it cuts back in to Jake. And he's fighting this alien. And we get a shot of the alien's head, and he's got a scar going down the right side of his face, right across his eye. And we realize that this is the alien that was experimenting on Jake and his wife, on Jake and Alice. So this one,
like this alien remembers him too as the one that got away.
Yes. So he has a vendetta against Jake, and Jake remembers him And Jake has a vendetta against him because he's the one that killed his wife.
Hey, and if John Wick didn't teach us anything, I mean, come on. If it taught us anything, I'm sorry. John Wick taught us something. Don't fuck with the dude that has a vendetta because of something that happened to his wife.
Yeah. So they're fighting, and this alien gets Jake pinned down, and it looks like he's about to kill him, but then...
Yeah, he's got that little laser thingy again.
Got that little laser, that little laser scalpel thing again, and it looks like he's going to kill him, but then a shot rings out, and the alien gets shot in the back, and it's Indiana Jones.
And Jake just says, Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones!
This time, Han did shoot first. No question about it.
That one out.
No question about it. Han shot first.
Alien's dead.
No, alien's not dead yet. So it distracted him. So Jake's able to get up and pick up a rifle. And so he starts shooting the alien. So they're both kind of shooting this alien and backing it up. Because all throughout this ship, there are these platforms that, it's showing how it's taking the gold from the ground. It's basically liquefying it and sending it up.
That's right.
Through these platforms.
The gold. We kind of get a visual of that in one of the flashback when he's at the house.
Yeah, because all that gold that he puts on the table kind of melts and liquefies, and then so all over the place. So you have these platform things these little consoles that are there's liquid gold going up, and so Jake just repeatedly shoots this alien until it falls back onto one of those things, and so now this molten gold is burning it, and it's freaking out, and so Jake shoots at the top of this device, and it just dumps all this liquid gold on top of it.
This liquid gold this molten gold on top of the alien, which I guess is that the purpose of the movie, is just to get Indy and Mon to melt an alien with gold?
Maybe. So that ends up, the alien screams, and then it goes quiet, and then the fissure in its chest opens up, and its arm reaches out, and then it dies.
That's right. Which I mean, I get you need some type of dramatic effect before the last bad guy dies. It's just kind of goofy when
this little greasy arm just reaches out and then just drops.
And we've talked about it. The movie itself mostly is fairly serious and all, but I thought this little piece was probably a little too cheesy for most of what happens in this movie.
It was unnecessary. I mean, but... So they get out. Indy helps Bond get out. And then it cuts to Ella. And she is inside the bowels of the ship. And she's just crawling through these little tunnels. And there's aliens chasing her. And she gets up.
Now you have these things they're just kind of crawling up the walls. Kind of remind, if you think about the Mines of Moria, you have all the little goblins kind of climbing the walls as they're chasing after the Fellowship. Yeah. They're all kind of climbing up. They're trying to chase after her.
Yeah. So she makes her way up to this big open area where just above her is the heart of the ship. And so she knows the ones are coming up behind her. And there's some that are in there. They're like in sort of these cocoons along the walls. And they're kind of breaking out of them. And, she's about to get overrun. And so she takes that bracelet and she punches a code into it. And all of a sudden it turns red. And she holds it up to her chest. And it explodes. And it blows up everything in that room. And then...
And it just sends it throughout the rest of the ship.
Well, yeah. So before this, though, just after Jake and Dollarhide got out, the ship took off.
That's right. Yeah,
so it was flying up. It was rising up in the air, and it's a big ship.
It's big,
and so it's flying up.
This thing was buried in there. I mean, it was already tall as it was, but what's underneath of it? Yeah, it
was maybe a third of it was above ground.
Yeah,
a quarter to a third of it was above ground.
Yeah,
kind of like an iceberg. But yeah, so it's up in the air.
Will we do Titanic?
Yeah, I don't know.
Stay tuned.
But yeah, so it's up in the air, and she's in there. She sets this bomb bracelet off, and it it explodes, and then the whole ship just blows up in midair. And Jake is sad
because Olivia Wilde just blew up.
I mean, anybody would be sad if Olivia Wilde blew up. I would hate it if Olivia Wilde blew up.
But she sacrificed herself nobly.
She did.
I mean, it's interesting that we're not told a lot really about her planet. It's just out there beyond the stars, how she got to Earth, any of that. None of that really matters.
No.
To be honest.
Yeah.
In some ways, Olivia Wilde's just a MacGuffin.
Yeah. So after all this, then we're back at the town,
and now the town's starting to boom.
Yeah, because now they have all this gold because they know where the gold is because they got it from the aliens. Yeah, so the town is booming. They're repairing everything that the aliens destroyed. Everybody in town is rich now.
They're all getting along. Dollarhide has renamed his company to Dollarhide and Son.
Yeah, he tells Percy to go to the bank to take some of his money to the bank, and then while he's there, he needs to get new checks and have the new checks say Dollarhide and Son.
And Percy's touched by this.
Oh, and we forgot to mention Nat.
Oh, is it Nat in the whole battle?
Yeah, in the battle.
He's the one that gets stabbed in the neck.
He's the one that got bit in the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the aliens jumps on him and bites him in the neck vampire style. And
some of these aliens are crazy.
Yeah. And so, Dollarhide, kills the alien, but it's too late. Nat,
and they actually
Nat dies in his arms. Yeah. So they have this moment.
He says, I should have treated you like a son.
Yeah. They make amends. They make up for past wrongdoings and whatnot. And then Nat dies in his arms.
And it's really a moment for Dollarhide and the Apaches to truly gain a mutual respect.
Yes.
And trust amongst each other.
Yeah. So back to town.
Yeah, so he tells Percy it's gonna be Dollarhide and Son now, and Percy's touched by this, and he can kind of tell even though he has an actual son, he never truly treated Percy like a son. No, but he will now.
It's almost like this new Dollarhide is an angel, and Percy's now been touched by an angel.
Paul Dano was not touched by an angel. And if he was, it was not Della Reese, John Dye, or Roma Downey.
So then Jake comes walking by, and Dollarhide calls him over. He's like, "Hey, you're not leaving without saying goodbye, are you?" And so he walks over, he's talking to him, and the sheriff is sitting there too. The sheriff's sitting right over by Dollarhide. And Jake's like, "Well, I'm a wanted man. Can't be hanging around here too much." And Dollarhide is like, "Hey, I thought I remembered. I saw Jake Lonergan die in those caverns. Yeah, isn't that right, Sheriff?" He's like, and the sheriff's like, "Yeah, I would have loved to have arrested him myself, but
and collected that
bounty."
It's a shame.
Yeah. So,
but before he starts to ride off, Dollarhide's like, I could really use a good man though.
Mm-hmm. And Jake's like, "No, I gotta go." And so he hops on his horse and he rides out of town. Rides off, and I would say into the sunset, but it's like the middle of the afternoon. So,
but it's the stranger rides off.
Yeah, the stranger rides off.
He's still that stranger, right? Because it plays off that. You get the backstory. We haven't really talked about this.
He's the drifter,
but he is the drifter. He's a stranger, drifter, and we do get his backstory eventually. But ultimately, that's what he is. Mm-hmm. He's he can, and especially now that Lonergan died in those caverns, he can be the man with no name.
Yep.
And drift place to place.
He becomes Clint Eastwood.
He becomes Kane in Kung Fu.
Yep.
And getting into adventures and shit. Jules Winfield, my man, Inglewood.
Mm-hmm.
He's Sam Elliott. He's the stranger that just tells the story about the dude. Maybe that's what he wanders into. He wanders for the next 100 years.
Maybe. And he grows an awesome mustache.
And morphs into Sam Elliott.
Yep.
Come on. We had to get a Big Lebowski reference somehow.
We had to.
It does take place in the West.
It does.
With a cowboy.
Yep.
It has to be referenced somehow.
Yep.
It does not have John Turturro. It does not have Steve Buscemi. It does not have John Goodman. It does not have Jeff Bridges. It does not have crazy trampoline throwing dude.
Way too excited trampoline guy. Yeah. But
it does not have Marty. It does not have Larry, Sweet Pea. The man is here.
The man is here.
It's not. It doesn't have Eric Stoltz.
Nope. Doesn't have any of them, but it does have a stranger. So.
But that's the end of Cowboys and Aliens. And there's no sequel, which is fine.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't need
fine. It is absolutely fine.
The movie stands well by itself.
Yes.
Again, it's not perfect. There's a few deficiencies in the movie, but it's a good summer blockbuster.
Yeah, it's a good movie, fun movie
that did not become a
watch.
blockbuster, but it's been forgotten, and we believe you should give it a chance if you've not seen it.
Yes, absolutely. If you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend just checking it out. Watch it. It's like we said, it's not a great movie, but it's so much fun.
Yes.
It's just fun to sit down and watch and just enjoy. Enjoy it for what it is. It is Cowboys and Aliens.
Again, it tells you what's going to be in the movie. It gives you what it tells you it's going to be in the movie. And at the end, you're like, oh, right, yeah.
It is
Cowboys and Aliens.
One of the most accurate titles in movie history.
Yeah. Up there with Die Hard, because a lot of people die hard.
Yep.
but this might be more accurate. I don't know.
And I mean, it's got the classic Western score in there too.
It does, yes.
And the sweeping shots of just the cinematography in this movie is great.
Yeah, no, I mean the production value on this is great, absolutely.
And we already mentioned it's got a top-notch cast. I'm surprised that with everything that went into this movie, all of the solid, the cast, the cinematography, the music, everything, even the writing was good on it.
Yeah, I agree.
With all these positives with it, I'm surprised it didn't have the lasting effect that, some other movies that aren't as good have.
I agree with that. But, check it out and let us know if you think differently.
Yeah.
Or if you have seen it and you agree that it's underseen and underappreciated, you can tell us that too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's been probably 10 years since I've seen it.
Yeah, it's been 10, 12 years since I've seen it.
I was really happy we were watching this. Like, oh, wow. It's like, oh, yeah, I think my oldest will actually enjoy watching this. This is a cool little movie.
Yeah. So, anything else?
I think that's it.
What can you say about it? All right. Well, if you enjoy what you're hearing, then go ahead and check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. We are Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. We're also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And then you can also follow us on Letterboxd. So you can check out some of our movie reviews that we've done for various movies. Some we have done on the podcast, some we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do. But our Letterboxd is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And if you want to shoot us an email, let us know what you thought of Cowboys and Aliens. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are your thoughts on it? You can let us know. Our email address is robandtonyscinematicadventure@gmail.com. The and is spelled out. It's not an ampersand like it is the name of the podcast. But yeah, just let us know what you thought. Should we do more movies like this? More movies like Cowboys and Aliens where, maybe, it's the Western setting, but there's something not so Western about it, Yeah. I mean, there are more movies like that out there, had you never heard of Cowboys and Aliens before this episode? And did we just introduce you to one of those hidden gems? Let us know. Let us know your thoughts. We want to hear from you. And also, if you enjoy what you're listening to, then go to our social media. Give us a like and a follow. Go to your favorite podcast app where you're listening to us. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a good rating, a good review. That's how we move up in the standings and the search and the recommendations, all that stuff. And, leave us a good comment. Again, we want to hear from you. We want to be able to interact with you guys.
Good deal.
And, all this will help us to find more people that, like to hear us ramble on and on about these movies. But next time we are going to continue our little mini series, leading up to the summer blockbusters, this little mini series of lesser remembered movies, movies that just for whatever reason, they're good movies, but for whatever reason, they've just sort of been forgotten for the most part. They don't really come up in everyday conversation.
And this next one's a personal favorite, to be honest.
Yes. Absolutely. We both love this next one.
It's a perfect little thriller.
It really is.
And it makes me think of summer, actually.
Me too.
I think we're not doing this in the summer, but it's a good one leading into summer, I think. I'm glad we're doing this next one.
And it's another one that takes place in a desert.
It does.
But yeah, so this next one that we're doing is the Kurt Russell classic.
With J.T. Walsh and Kathleen Quinlan.
Yes. Breakdown.
Yes.
So yeah, it is. It's a great movie.
It is.
I love this movie, but
it's a short movie, and it utilizes every minute really well.
Yes, it is a great little thriller,
and Kurt Russell's fantastic in it.
Yes, he is. And
so is J.T. Walsh.
Yeah,
I mean the two of them.
And I mean MC Gainey is in it too.
I'd say MC Gainey also.
And this will not be our first movie with MC Gainey.
That's right.
We have done MC Gainey movies before.
We'll discuss that next week.
Yes, we will.
We will do other future movies with MC Gainey also.
Yes, we will.
Including this summer.
Yep. So join us next time for Breakdown.